off of a win Saturday, and we had a good day today. You know, I thought guys had a lot of energy and a lot of focus. Obviously, they're excited about the challenge in front of them against playing against a really good Kansas State football team. I think they know what kind of week of preparation we're going to have in order to go play well on Saturday. And you know, it's kind of a unique deal playing against somebody twice in a year. It's something I haven't done very often. I think it's been a long time, maybe since I was coaching at Navarro Junior College. I think we played somebody twice in the same year. So that's a little bit different experience, a little bit different maybe than I'm accustomed to. And but at the same time, it's just kind of a football game. You got to get ready for all of them independently of each other. Certainly, what happened the first time has no bearing on what's going to happen this time. So again, the big thing for us is just preparation and doing everything we can to give ourselves the best opportunity to play well Saturday. So looking forward to competing against a very good team, and guys are excited about the challenge.
Have they changed at all since the first time? Do you see anything different?
Yeah, a little bit. I think when they had to transition from Adrian Martinez to Will Howard, you know, the offense changed a little bit. I think they've done a nice job. You know, Colin Klein's their offensive coordinator, and he's done a really good job of utilizing the personnel and, you know, kind of adapting a little bit, and, you know, went to a little bit more of a passing offense, a little less quarterback run. They'll still do some quarterback run, but certainly not as heavy as they were with Martinez as the quarterback. And you know, I think the one thing that I've been really impressed with is what they've done with Deuce Vaughn in terms of getting him the ball coming out of the backfield. You know, he's a load trying to tackle him, you know, when they hand it to him, but they've done a really nice job of, you know, getting him personnel on linebackers and you know, him running routes, and they've been really creative in some of the things they've done as far as, you know, making him a receiver. So that's going to be challenging for us to try to not only stop him carrying the football, but also receiving the football. And they've kind of evolved that way. I think they've really improved offensively since then. I mean, I think the last 4 or 5 games, their offense has really taken off. I think, again, as they've kind of figured out their identity and probably what he's comfortable with. And their special teams, I think, have really improved over the last month to 6 weeks as well.
So we talked about playing the team twice. Obviously not getting into specific game plan stuff.
Yeah.
What's your general philosophy though when game planning the team for the second time?
Well, kind of like I said earlier, I do believe, you know, obviously there's, you know, there's the whole idea that, you know, okay, look, this worked before, we're going to go do this again. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. I mean, I think you've got to be pretty creative, and you know, they're going to, just like us, they're going to prepare for the things that went well in that game and try to address the things that didn't go well. And so that's, you know, that's the way this stuff goes. There'll be a give and a take. You know, we'll say, okay, you know, we want to stop these 2 or 3 plays that they're good at. You know, and they'll say, oh, we want to try to run those 2 or 3 plays out of a different formation with a motion, or disguise it, or, you know, do something to not let your guys get settled in and defend it. So, you know, there'll be a lot of cat and mouse stuff, probably a little bit more than you normally have, just again because of the familiarity with the 2 teams and having played each other. But as I said earlier, I think all these football games are kind of independent of each other. I really do believe that. You know, again, you look at last year's TCU team and you know, the kind of point differential between Iowa State and Oklahoma State and some of those games. You know, I think it's clear a lot of that stuff doesn't carry over from year to year, and I don't necessarily believe that it carries over that much from, you know, from game 6 to game 12 or game 7, whatever it was.
Coach Savage and Mason, the 2 safeties.
Yep.
Has it changed anything they're doing?
Not really. No. They've kind of kept doing what they normally do. Guys that have come in and played have played well. I mean, they really have. I haven't seen a tremendous drop off there. Those are 2 good players that have been a little bit banged up, but the guys that play some are as well. I mean, they're going to do what they do on defense.
How much do you know about Chris Klein? I mean, clearly, obviously, he had the success at FCS over his 4th year there, and kind of get his thing going. What do you know about him?
Yeah, I mean, I just have a lot of respect for his teams. You know, I think that, you know, to me, you always look at a team and you go, okay, again, is the sum of the parts, you know, greater than they are individually. And I think his team, although they have really good individual players, I think that they do a really good job of playing as a team and playing complementary football. You know, they play very hard. They don't beat themselves. I think we're two of the better teams in college football, both their offense and our offense, not turning the ball over. You know, they don't get many penalties. They don't have a lot of negative plays. They do a nice job staying ahead of the chains. I think they manage the game well. You know, defensively, I think that they play very hard, same thing, their scheme is sound. They make adjustments in game adjustments, they're really good on special teams. I think probably as good as anybody in the league right now on teams. When you sit down and you look at their overall study of special teams, they're probably number one right now in the Big 12. So just a good football team and, you know, physical. I think that's the one thing that having played those guys when we did earlier, I mean, that was a very physical football game. And I anticipate Saturday's game being physical, and I think that's a trademark of their program. I think it has been for a number of years, certainly going back to Coach Snyder. And I think Coach Kleiman's kind of kept that tradition alive.
Is there any update on Johnny Hodges for this weekend?
Yeah, so Johnny had a hamstring pull that we thought was really bad. Actually, it turned out to be not as significant as we thought. So I didn't do much today, more kind of rehab stuff. I anticipate him doing some practice tomorrow, and then we'll kind of see how he advances from there.
Have you been able to get a sense yet how beneficial Hugh not playing last week will be for him?
Yeah, he looked better today than he has in a long time, probably going back at least a month. So it was good to see him out there today. He just looked like his old self.
Coach, people talk about Deuce Vaughn and the running game for Kent State, but what kind of challenge does Malik Knowles and the rest of those receivers bring to you guys?
Yeah, they're good. I mean, they got good size, they got good speed, they're elusive after the catch. They do a nice job with their tight ends and wings and do different things to, you know, to stress you defensively. You gotta do a good job of passing things off. And so, you know, they're gonna show you a bunch of different looks, you know, and different personnel groupings and they keep you on your heels a little bit defensively. That's the, they do a really nice job of doing that. They'll have some things that they scheme up that'll, you know, give you problems. You gotta defend those plays. And, you know, Will Howard's really accurate. And one thing that I'm impressed with too is just, you know, he gets the ball out on time consistently and throws it to a good spot. Lets those receivers go get it, and they have the ability to do it. So, really good receiver core. Like I said, I'm really impressed with their tight ends. Just a very good football team. You know, the kind of team you expect to play in a conference championship game.
Sonny, against Iowa State, clearly your guys understood the mission and they went out and handled their business. As a coach, how do you try to get that same performance this week here?
Yeah, you know, I think the big thing for us, you know, I did get a sense that, you know, coming off that Texas game, again, kind of we talked about this, I think, on Sunday, or Saturday, rather, after the game. We had played, you know, 3 road games in a month. You know, looking at West Virginia, at Baylor, and at Texas, okay? So coming out of the Texas game, our guys were pretty physically beat up, emotionally worn out, pretty banged up, pretty tired. And so, you know, we had to go to Baylor the next week, and we kind of had a bunch of guys, probably 15 to 18 guys that got sick, you know, during practice that week, either had the flu or RSV or something, and didn't practice. So it was kind of a mash unit going to Waco in a lot of ways. You know, guys that just hadn't played much and hadn't practiced, and you know, we just weren't probably at our best that week. We were fortunate to find a way to win. I think that's what good football teams do. They figure stuff out, and our guys just battled and hung in there, and we found a way to win. Then I think once we did that, then it just seemed like we got a chance to rest up a little bit. You know, being at home, our guys didn't have class last week, which I think was actually a pretty significant opportunity for us to get a little bit more rest. And so, you know, we hit that Tuesday practice last week and we looked fresh. You know, it had been the first time in a long time that we looked like, you know, we wanted to look. And so, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday practice last week, you kind of thought, okay, here we go. And for whatever reason, our guys just kind of got a second wind, and it carried over to the game, you know, and I thought we played that way. We played faster than we've been playing. Got off to a really good start, which I think was very important for us last week, will be important for us this week as well. So it's just, you know, I do kind of think we hit our stride a little bit, and you know, you look at it 12, because we played 10 consecutive weeks. You know, we had an open date after the second game of the season. And so, you know, we played a bunch of games in a row. And so it's been it's been a challenge just to try to get the guys back fresh and fast and rested and feeling good mentally. Because, you know, it's like anything else, they just get a little bit worn out mentally. And then sometimes you gotta try to think of all the different things you can do to, you tell them a million times, boy, you guys feel great, don't you? You know, well, you're really fresh, aren't you? You know, they just kind of look at you like, actually, no, we're not, but whatever you say. So, you know, you try to play that kind of psychology with them a little bit, but the good thing is I think the guys feel good, the light's at the end of the tunnel. You know, they know that this is for the conference championship and all the stuff that goes along with it. And so I think that there is a different feeling, you know, maybe than there has been, certainly than there was a couple of weeks ago.
A lot of the numbers suggest that Trey and Josh are arguably the top cornerback duo on the Big 12. Just as players and leaders, what can you say about that they've got on the team this year?
Yeah, you know, let me say this, I'll talk about Trey first. Just have been incredibly impressed with, you know, just how hard he plays. You know, he's just a very, very competitive football player that has, you know, takes a lot of pride in his play. He doesn't like to give up anything. You know, he gives up a 3-yard slant and he's disappointed. I mean, he's just one of those guys. And to me, when you play that position, you know, it's two things. It's competitiveness and it's an ability to move past negative things. Because, I mean, sometimes you're gonna cover somebody and they're gonna complete a pass or a touchdown. And, you know, and you go, well, he couldn't have covered it any better. And that's just the reality of it. Sometimes the quarterback makes a perfect throw and the receiver runs a perfect route. You're in perfect position and the guy makes a play. And so he has the ability to do both those things. You know, he competes so hard and then he can put something behind him, whether it goes well or doesn't go well. And so I think that's the great thing about him. You know, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's got remarkable lateral quickness and acceleration, and he's a physical guy for someone that's his size. I mean, really physical. He's not afraid to tackle, and he likes it. You know, he does. He likes the physical part of playing corner, and that's very difficult to find that. And I think that's why I really truly believe he'll have a really good NFL career because of that. You know, like I said, exceptional lateral movement and speed and all that stuff, but you know, he likes to play football, he likes to play physical, he loves to compete. And then Josh is kind of the same thing, you know, I think Josh just becomes more and more confident all the time. You know, I think he got here and was a newcomer, transfer from Louisiana Monroe, you know, felt like he had to prove himself every day. I think he still has that chip on his shoulder that he's got to go out every day and prove that he belongs here, and just got an incredible work ethic. But his biggest thing, I think, is just playing with confidence now. Same thing, very competitive, wants to be thrown in, wants to be the guy that has to make a play, you know, in a critical situation. Just all the good things that you can say about those guys. I mean, I really do believe it's one of the best corner duos in college football, not just the Big 12.
You know, this time last year, TCU season was over,
Yep.
right? And now, obviously, so much left to play for. I mean, how do you think the players on the roster have handled?
Yeah, you know what? It's been so much fun to be a part of this team, just because I think we have done a remarkable job. I'm not really sure why. I mean, I've got, you know, this is one of those things that once all this is over, we'll sit down as a staff and we'll talk about, okay, why did these players handle this so well? You know, and was it something we did? Was it something they did? Was it some kind of, you know, innate character trait that this team has? Was it the leadership of the team? Just, you know, we'll kind of go back and try to figure out a way to model it in a lot of ways, because, you know, as the season goes along and as you win, especially when you haven't been maybe in the spotlight like this team has been, that can overwhelm you. You know, it's overwhelmed me as a coach before. You know, I've been on some pretty significant win streaks, both at Louisiana Tech, at SMU as well, and we got off to a really good start one year at Cal. It felt like we just got a little bit overwhelmed. And so you've got to, I do think you have to manage it the right way, and I think as a coach, you've got to do a really good job of just staying in the moment, not looking back and reflected too much on what happened, and certainly not feeling too good about the success you've had, but at the same time, not thinking about all the other stuff that's out there. I think you just have to say, look, we've got to have a good practice today. Let's focus all of our attention on that. And I think if you can manage to do that as a coach, then I think you set the tempo for the program, and the players do that. You know, and we have a staff meeting every day, and never one time in a staff meeting have we talked about the Big 12 championship game. You know, this is just another game for us. Never one time have we talked about college football playoff, the rankings, the Big 12 standings. We just haven't done that. You know, for us, it's been, you know, let's really evaluate our practice today. Let's correct what we need to correct, and let's have a better practice tomorrow. And so I think when you approach things that way, I know from you know, me personally, it's not as overwhelming. Maybe is when you sit back and you try to think about, okay, all the stuff that's going on and all the possibilities and all that. And, you know, when that happens, you kind of start to go, you know, you just got to get yourself back in the moment. And so I think that's what this team has done. And again, I don't really know why, but it seems like it's happened that way. And it goes back to what I've said before. I mean, never heard our players talk about it. Never heard players talk about bowl games or anything. I mean, it's always been, hey, let's just go to work and roll our sleeves up and get better today and see where that takes us.
I know that a couple of weeks ago you kind of talked about how at some of your previous stops, and maybe you got off to these hot starts that wasn't totally indicative of team quality at times, and that's why November finishes didn't happen that way. I mean, what's made this team different?
Well, I think we just, I mean, I think we've, you know, in the past sometimes I think we've kind of won sometimes with smoke and mirrors, you know, and you kind of had that feeling that, okay, we're almost waiting for the other shoe to drop because we probably won a couple of games we shouldn't have, and I just don't, I haven't, our players haven't felt that way, and our coaches haven't felt that way here. I mean, we just feel like that, you know, we can play with anybody, and, you know, that changes the way you see things. You know, when you kind of have that kind of confidence in your players and belief in those guys, that even when things don't go well, you know, you worry about the psyche of a football team sometimes, and I don't really worry about it with this group, because I know that they're gonna bounce back, and I know they're gonna respond. I know they're gonna not freak out. You know, they're just gonna kind of manage the situation, try to make it better, and figure out how to improve it, and move forward. And so, that's why the guys have been so good during games when things don't go well. It's like we just get on the sidelines and nobody's upset, nobody's screaming and yelling. We just say, okay, look, what happened there? Let's figure this out and make sure it doesn't happen again. And I think that they've, you know, really adopted that kind of mentality, and we've tried to do that as coaches.
12
Coach.
weeks in, Coach, I'm thinking about them losing the two safeties and your potential issues at linebacker. Is it too late to move guys 12 weeks in?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that you can. I think every situation is kind of specific and individual, and I think that there are times when you might have a guy that's a safety that played linebacker, or a linebacker that you know, can run and play safety. I mean, just kind of, you know, you have those things where a guy might have done it in the past, or maybe he played that position a year or two ago. You know, linebacker is one of those spots, I think, that's such a position of instinct that it's hard to, you know, everybody's always like, okay, we have this running back, we're gonna move to linebacker. I'm like 0 for 20 on that move. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, you know, I mean, it just hasn't worked. And so linebackers have some kind of innate ability to see things. There's all this stuff happening, and they kind of know where to go. You know, the great ones do. And, you know, and you sit there and you watch the stuff, and you say, well, how did you do that? He goes, well, I don't know, I just knew he was going there. And so that's kind of that position, and it's unique and it's different. The safety position, maybe a little bit, but a lot of that depends on what they're asking them to do defensively and all that. So, you know, I think today's college football is pretty specialized. And so it's, you know, the safety position, you have to be able to do everything. You know, you gotta be able to cover, you gotta be able to tackle, you gotta be physical. You know, just a lot of things that you have to do to be able to play that position now in college football, where in the past it was probably, you know, you didn't have to cover that much. You know what I mean? There wasn't gonna be a lot of, you know, number 2 receivers running through the middle of the field with speed. Now you're gonna see that, you know, every series. And so you gotta be able to run, you gotta be able to cover those slots that are fast and elusive, and then you gotta be able to tackle guys, and then you also gotta be able to fit the run, and get involved in the run fit. So it's a real specific position.